Okay, today I will talk about the civil rights and the emblematic characteristics of a person. The first person of emblematic characters was Cesar Chavez. Cesar Chavez was a leader and civil rights activist of Latin America origin. He is mainly known for his work in the struggle for farm workers' rights and social justice for Latinos and other marginalized groups. Born in Yuma, Arizona in 1927, Chavez grew up in a family migrant farm workers who traveled across the southwestern in the United States in search of work in the fields. From a young age, he experienced the hardship and discrimination that farm workers faced and decided to dedicate his life to improving their conditions. In the 1950s, Chavez began to get involved in the civil rights and social justice movement in California, working with organizations such as the Community Service Organization, in the sigles CSO, I think, and the National Farm Workers Association, which later became United Farm Workers. Throughout his career, Chavez led strikes, marches, and boycotts to protest against inhumane working conditions and the exploitation of farm workers. In this case, he also advocated for the civil rights of Latinos and other marginalized groups and fought against racial discrimination and segregation. Chavez is remembered as a spirit leader and a symbol of the struggle for social justice in the United States. He passes away in 1993, but his legacy remains relevant today, and his work has been recognized with numerous awards and others, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The second was Huey Newton, was an activist and leader of the civil rights movement in the United States, like the other, and one of the founders of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. Born in Monroe, Louisiana in 1942, Newton moved to Oakland, California in his teenage years. There he met Bobby Seale, with whom he founded the Black Panther Party in 1966. Newton became the Minister of Defense of the party and was known for his fight against police brutality and racial discrimination in black communities. The Black Panther Party's advocates for self-defense, social justice, and the liberation of African Americans. Among the initiatives promoted by the party were creation of free schools, breakfast programs for children, poor communities, and the establishment of health clinics and legal service for African Americans. Newton was arrested and imprisoned several times and became a symbol of the struggle against police repression and the mass incarceration of African Americans. After his release from prison, Newton continued to work to civil rights and social justice and became professor of African Studies at the University of California, Santa Cruz. Huey Newton died in 1989, I think, and as a result as shouting, but his legacy is a civil rights leader and activist, and his role in the founding of the Black Panther Party continue to be recognized and studied today. Thanks. The third person is Angela Davis. It's an American activist, writer, and scholar who has been a prominent figure in the fight for civil rights, social justice, and racial and gender equality in the United States. This person, born in Virginia, Alabama in 1944, Davis grew up to an environment of struggle against racial segregation and discrimination in the 1960s. She became a member of the Communist Party and joined the fight for civil rights, working in the Black Liberation Movement and in the defense of women's rights. In 1970, Davis was charged with conspiracy and kidnapping in connection with a courthouse shooting that resulted in the deaths of people. After spending over in the York prison and began attitude for a Chambers, Davis became a symbol of the struggle against injustice and oppression. In the decades that followed, Davis continued to fight for civil rights and social justice through her academic work and political activism. She has been notable for her community to the abolition to the prison system and the fight against policy violence and racial discrimination. In addition to her activism, Davis is a renowned scholar and writer, and has taught at several universities, including the University of California, Santa Cruz, and the University of California, Los Angeles. Her works include Woman, Race, Class, and Freedom, Just Another Word, among others. Angela Davis is considered one of the most influential leaders and activists of the civil rights movement and advocate for equality and social justice for all. Her legacy and struggle continue to inspire generations of activists and human rights advocates. And for finish of the end and the emblematic character was the Ford. The Ford is Russell Means, was a Native American activist who fought the rights of indigenous peoples in the United States. Means was born on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota. In 1939, he was raised on poverty and experienced discrimination and racism as a result of his Native American heritage. In the 1960s, he became involved in the American Indian movement. Of the singles is IAM, which was dedicated to fighting for the rights of indigenous peoples. As a member of IAM, Means played a key role in organizing protests and demonstrations to draw attention of issues such as land rights, treaty rights, and policy brutality against Native Americans. To the second, he was involved in the occupation of Alcatraz Island of 1969, and later in 1933 he led the takeover town of Wounded New South Dakota, which resulted in a 59-day stand with federal agents. Means was also an actor appeared in several films, including The Last of the Mohicans and Natural Born Killers, I think. Throughout his life, Means remaining committed to the cause of Native American rights and continued to speak out against injustice and discrimination. Of the second page, he passed away in 2012, but his legacy as leader and activist for indigenous peoples continues to inspire others to this day. Thanks for your attention.